Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Yes, we are ready. Everybody ready? Yeah. Okay. This feels very silly because usually we don't hold these. So, welcome everybody to the Café con Paulo Freire podcast here at CEMUS, today at Blåsenhus Uppsala University. For those of you watching the video of this, you can see some of the space in here. So my name is Daniel. I work with education and outreach at CEMUS, which is the Center for Environment and Development Studies here at Uppsala University. And with me, as always, I have Asril.
Hello everyone. Yep, and we have been now almost 3 years with these coffees with Paulo Freire, and right now they know in Brazil that we are doing it, so we could have international participants, listeners already with, who are we meeting?
Our guests today?
Yes.
Yes, I should say something about that as well. So with us today it's Rebellmammorna in Swedish, Rebel Moms in English, which sounds like a country band or something. but maybe your association goes elsewhere, but that's really good. And I gave it the headline, The Kids Aren't Alright, which is a play on both the Who song and the No Effects or something, Prodigy song. But we don't have to get into the music around it.
Okay.
Yep. Something else?
It's great that you are active in town as Rebel mothers. We would like to have all mothers in the world revolt like you for the climate, for justice, for peace, for life, for decency, for democracy. Great.
Okay, so in the order of the microphones, so microphone number 2, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and also, as we said, maybe we can take a bit of a longer introduction also about what got you engaged in these issues and what kind of set you down on this path. And it doesn't have to be a long hero's journey, it could be smaller things or just, things you want to share.
Yeah, so I'll give it a go. My name is Caroline. I'm 33. I'm the mother of Magne, who will be 2 in September. And I've been active in sustainability issues since my early teens. And for me, it feels ridiculous that my son would one day have to do activism in the same thing that I have been working on for like 20 years. And so to me, it's impossible not to do something, actually. I don't really have a choice.
All right. Thank you so much. And microphone number 3.
Hi, my name is Anneli, and as many other people in Rebellmammorna, I am not a literal mother, but I'm an aunt and I am a friend of people who have children, and you're worried about all the children in the world, even if you don't have your own. It's been a gradual journey for me, but I got into activism gradually starting from, I think, 2020 with Extinction Rebellion and then Rebellmammorna and some other organizations as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And the last microphone, number 4. And
Hi.
there's 2 people on this microphone as well, so
yes,
yeah.
I'll start, Jeanette, right? Hi, I'm Sue, and I'm originally from the UK, been in Sweden for about 18 years now. I have 3 children. I'm a teacher, so I'm already invested in thinking about next generations and education and so on. And I'm also doing a PhD at the moment, and one of my areas of focus in that is sustainability or sustainable issues, environment and so on. And personally, I feel obligated or responsible for not just people today, which is also a major responsibility, and more than humans too, but also generations to come. So that's why I'm a member of Rebellmammorna.
Thank you.
And I'm Jeanette Brandt, come from England, and I've lived here for 56 years. Came with my husband and 2 small children. We're only going to be here 2 years. And my husband was a language editor, and then I'm a childbirth educator. This is National Childbirth Trust in England, and the idea there is to empower parents, is to give them the idea that they can in fact work with their bodies, with the process of becoming parents. You are a parent when you're pregnant. It doesn't happen when the baby's born. So my life in Uppsala has been to do with expectant parents, and I have had a very, very rich life. They have been my continual further education. They are the people who have taught me and given me the ability to be able to teach other parents. So 40 years I've been working with this subject within Studieförbundet Vuxenskola, which is like an adult education school. Thank you. I'm involved in this because this is where I feel comfortable. I'm 85. I have been a very strong activist when I was younger with my husband in England. But I've been so wrapped up in my other work and what I want to give to and share with this society that these things have rather got put to one side. But now I have found something that is absolutely right. It is so calm, it is so dignified, it is so... A manifestation is different for me than a demonstration. And I think this is a really important statement that women can show of their concern.
Thank you. And maybe also we should add, we're not moms, but we're parents as well. So we could add that also to our introductions as well. Do you want to add something more?
Yeah, so to be a member of Rebel Mothers, you don't need to be a mother. You could be a man, you could be a grandfather, have 6 grandchildren, and that's quite suggestive, quite the possibility of intergenerational and intergender, trans whatever, dialogue for a possible sustainable world for our children and grandchildren.
Yeah, and that leads us perfectly on to the next question. If one of you wants to just explain the work that you do from a outsider's perspective, somebody who's not involved in activism, what does it actually mean to be part of Rebel Moms, and what are your most funnest or most successful kind of things you've done over the years?
Anyone?
I can try. So Rebellmammorna didn't exist until August 2022, when I was 2 weeks from my due date. We had our first protest in Stockholm. That's when we started to sit in a circle facing outwards, often with signs with the names and ages of our children on it, or other children that we're concerned about. And it was a success, and it started a Facebook group that grew really fast. And since then, we've had quite a lot of circles where we sit and sing together. We have a few songs that we sing about our children and that we want a good future for them. And I mean, less than 7 or 8 months after the first circle in Stockholm, we had our first global Mothers Rebellion with, I don't remember how many countries there were then, but 20 at least, with countries in Africa and Costa Rica joining us. And that was really powerful. And also about a month ago, someone said in the beginning of this year, what if we would knit a scarf that would be wrapped around the parliament on Sweden's overshoot day, when we've used up all the resources that should be enough for the entire year? And we were yeah, maybe we can manage that. We're 6,000 something in Sweden now. Maybe we can do that. We need about 1 kilometer of scarf to do that. And then they said, well, we have more than enough scarf. And then it turned out that we had 4,250 meters of scarf that we knitted and crocheted and assembled together and carried to the parliament. We couldn't roll it all out because then we would stop all the traffic in Stockholm. But it was really powerful that we walked with that scarf to the parliament and circled it. We thought 600 people would show up, but we were 1,500 about. So that was really powerful, I think.
And I have to ask also, the scarves were also supposed to be attached to like statues and other things in roundabouts, or was that So, but because then I've seen it in like far northwest where I have like a cabin. So it's Do you want to add something as well? Let's switch here.
No, just say that was sort of a later addition because we had too much scarf. So that I don't think those are counted into. I think the 4.2 kilometers are what ended up in Stockholm. And then people just kept knitting red scarves and tying them around statues all over the country. Yeah.
So there were scarves in Stockholm, and then there were scarves all over Sweden, basically. And they were supposed to be red as well, or was that? Yeah. So then I figured. Just a sec. All right.
Yeah. As we know, the frame for this session is the Coffee with Paulo Freire, which is now an international movement of popular education in different countries. It was born in Brazil. And one thing that is very basic in Paulo Freire's tradition is hope. So what you have done, this incredible achievement, shows that it is possible, that there is hope, that we can, we need this kind of inspirations. 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers of hope, we need it.
Yeah, and I think also, you want to add something first. Let's go.
I was just going to say, in addition to that, that the hope that was made to be visual, made to be very, very eye-catching, but also I think certainly from my perspective, I don't know whether it's the same with you, that we get a lot of hope from the individual circle demonstrations that we do. One of our models is to sit in a circle, and it can be a silent protest. We might sing, we might speak a few words, but we sit in a circle and we face the public. We sit in a public place, but I get an awful lot of hope and a sense of solidarity from those circle meetings as well. So on an individual level, when you feel sometimes this is too big for me, I can't do anything here, it's so good to get together with other people.
And this is about community building. Community has been destroyed by decades of neoliberal fragmentation of people. If people are fragmented, there is no hope. If you have community, wow.
Yeah.
And I think communities is a personal thing. I mean, communities exist in the digital world, and then you don't see them. It isn't the same as being in a group and feeling that we are all here because we have hope. And that attracts people who wonder what we're doing. And then you've got the interaction, and then you have a conversation. It achieves what you also see as important.
And I think one of the beautiful things about Rebellmammorna is that we are such a diverse group. There are lots of people who come to our protests and circles that have never been climate activists before. And they are mixed with people who've been climate activists since the 70s or 80s. And it's my mother-in-law, it's me, it's children showing up along with their parents. I think it's really nice. There's an initiative for Rebel Dads as well, but it hasn't grown as fast as Rebellmammorna, but Rebellmammorna has grown so fast. I'm so happy that my son doesn't grow in the same pace as they do, because I would change the clothing size every week or so. But it's been beautiful for me, who was pregnant when the first demonstration was, to see Rebellmammorna grow so incredibly fast during the time I've been a mother.
Yeah, and I'm thinking also this is a perfect bridge to kind of the second part in all of this, and I don't want to really use that term, but it's just like, what is the theory of change? How do you see your organization changing society and transforming society towards whatever goals you have. Because one thing is like giving yourself hope, building community, you inspire others, but then it's also the friction, creating friction in other people who might not agree with you, or raising awareness of an issue by creating friction or conflict or whatever it is. But I don't know who wants to elaborate on that, or if there's like official bullet points or thoughts on that.
Do you want to?
I can start. So I mean, one of the characteristics of Rebellmammor specifically is that we don't engage in civil disobedience. So we're affiliated with Extinction Rebellion. So we follow their non-violent demonstration, their policy of non-violence. But ours specifically is to not engage in civil disobedience as such, which means that we offer a different, as Jeanette was saying, we offer a different approach to engaging than other groups do. But of course we're very visible. We reach out to the public. We sit in public spaces. We hand out flyers. We always have contacts who speak to people who come up. Sometimes they're people who support us. It's great. We get thumbs up quite often by passers-by. But obviously there are people who have questions about what we're doing and maybe don't necessarily agree. And then we engage in dialogue with those people as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to sort of continue on that theme that that the reason the organization was created was to reach like new activists who perhaps for their own reasons or just because they have kids would not be interested in civil disobedience. But also I think that those people then can also reach other people than you can reach with a civil disobedience action. And I have been engaged in civil disobedience and believe that both methods are absolutely necessary. Like any non-violent method is necessary because it's a crisis and it's a disaster. Yeah, but you reach different people who like receive the message differently, and I think you also achieve different things because I think a civil disobedience action is good at like raising awareness of a particular issue, like this, like the wrongdoings of this company or this particular like partial issue within climate change, whereas this is more about making people have an emotional response, like not shut down, because it's so easy to just go through life as if everything was normal, but then we're sitting there with these signs with names of children and saying we are concerned, we are worried, we are scared. That's an emotional appeal in a different way, and I think both of those things are very necessary. Yeah.
And I also think that I've also been part of or been to civil disobedient actions like road blockades, and there you meet a lot of anger from people passing by. But when I'm doing things with Rebellmammorna, middle-aged men walk past and give me the thumbs up and smile. And it's hard to be. I think it's harder to be angry at mothers who sit there and say that they want a future for their children than. It's easier to bark at people sitting in the street because you don't really see the connection, but people walk past and think, hey, I'm also a mother. Maybe I should be sitting there as well. And I think it's emotionally disturbing instead of physically disturbing. And I think that the two, it's good to have them both in different activist groups and to have a legal option for those of us who can't You can't sit in a prison cell if you're going to pick someone up from kindergarten.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I was thinking about reaching people that negate climate change, that couldn't care less about democracy or about inclusion or about tolerance or about meeting the other. So it's very valuable what you are doing. I was thinking of Sarah Van Gelder. She was editing the quarterly called Yes magazine. And she was in Seattle when the WTO was, so she's, you could say, not just a writer, an editor, but she has been reflecting about theory of change, how to change. And basically she said it's where you are. So it's not just meeting occasionally people passing by, but where you live, in your neighborhood, with a family, at work. You could say every space could be a corner to intervene, especially to those that are not already saved. You know, we tend to preach to the already agreeing with us. So basically she was saying, how do we reach out to people that don't spontaneously come to us? So this is an invitation for us to go beyond the conventional, because as you said earlier, there's a tendency to go business as usual, like nothing is happening, and then the World War I took place next day, and then World II took place next time, and now we are facing the possibility that Trump can be re-elected, you know, and Bolsonaro can be re-elected. And, you know, we just know that last Sunday, the international fascist movements met in Madrid. So how do we respond to that? Because you are weavers, you're not just weaving, you know, scarves. We are weaving hope, you are weaving community. So how do you respond to this challenge?
In Uppsala, we actually had a very physical version of that during one of our circles, because when we were having a circle, neo-Nazis turned up and stood next to us trying to shout out their messages in megaphones. And our response to that then was, we of course talked to each other and said it's okay for anyone to leave if you don't feel safe. I think most of the people who had children with them maybe left. It was in September last year, here in Uppsala, and we decided, like, no, we are going to keep singing, and we're going to sing louder. And we started to stand up and face them, and we were singing, and people in the square started to sing along, and they started to clap. And it was so and people also started to walk behind us, because we were like a safe barrier between them and the Nazis. If they didn't want to pass by straight in front of them, a bunch of mostly angry men facing almost only women. And to me, that was, I don't think I've never felt as much as a strong parent and as a strong mother as I did that day. And it was really, it was awesome, because they, in the end, they gave up and left the square because no one could hear them. So I think that was one version, but otherwise I think it's just trying to spread the awareness to other people, because if you don't use your voice, others will use your silence. And I think that's the main problem, that those who know, who watch what's happening, are keeping silent, and those are the people that we're trying to get to, because if they start using their voice, I don't think that the other powers have much of a chance.
And on the metaphor of weaving as well, there's we have our circle approach that we use, the circle method that we use, but we're constantly looking for new ways to intervene and new collaborations as well. So we're Rebellmammor, but we often join forces with other groups with similar goals, maybe at a local library or somewhere, so that our voices join together with maybe slightly different backgrounds, slightly different stances, but the same general message. So that's one approach that we also use. And then we use different tactics. We have our circles, but we have the scarves. Some members sit and we had this rebellion of one recently, where one person would sit down with a sign and just invite passers-by to join them, just one person, so very non-confrontational. We also have quiet, silent walks as well through the town, where nobody says a word, we just walk with our banner. So we weave lots of different approaches into our core approaches as well.
Thinking, feeling about weaving. I think it's a key value for our age of fragmented strings, separated and then manipulated. We find in Uppsala, in Sweden, all over, everyone seems to be doing their own thing. You know, K.G. Hammar is emeritus archbishop in Sweden. He said there are over 100 different climate environmental organizations. So how do we weave alliances with other organizations? So in Uppsala we had between 2002 2010 Uppsala Social Forum as a platform, and CEMUS was providing sometimes the material basis. So how do you say that it is timely to start weaving again these islands of resistance, to make archipelagos of resistance to be effective?
And I think that your popped balloon I'm thinking of there, we have as an organisation, it's a flat organisation, so it's non-hierarchical, and I think that's one of the one power actually, because ideas, that there's not somebody sitting at the top determining what we do. It might be that as a group we choose, somebody has an idea and we choose not to follow that one. But it's a collaboration, so all ideas are welcome. All voices are welcome, and I think that's something that's quite powerful, because from those ideas we can obviously grow different approaches, as Anneli said, that then they're like tentacles. Then they can reach out and perhaps connect with another organisation somewhere else, and then the weaving begins. So I think the structure of Rebellmammor is quite important there.
Sorry. We're currently working on creating a manifest for Rebellmammorna to have a document about, I guess it's about what we do, like what our stands are, and I think that will also make it easier for us to collaborate with other people, because then we can say, this is like the boundaries that we have. Can we do something together within those boundaries? Because I think it's not going to be a very limiting one. I think it's probably going to be quite basic, but it could also make people less scared of collaborating with others if you can say, like, this is the terms that we need to fulfill to do something in the name of Rebellmammorna, because it's hard when you are a representation of something where you don't really have these documents saying that this is what we do and this is what we don't do. So I think that is going to make it easier. We're still a very young movement. Haven't even done this for 2 years. So I think we're going to do a lot more of that in the future.
Could I jump in before you, Asrilda? Because I'm thinking also a kind of bridge from this. I should speak in the microphone. A bridge from this that we've now talked about is, you can say in a general sense, and from a CEMUS perspective, it's like the natural environment and the climate is kind of breaking down, different kind of breakdowns in different locations, and the effects of those breakdowns affecting people very differently depending on who you are and where you are in the world. But you can also talk about a kind of mental landscape that is also breaking down in how people feel, whether it's around these issues or in general, and also especially young people and kids. But what I'm thinking in both those kind of lenses or ways of looking at the world, it comes down very much to an individualistic kind of perspective on that we're trying to solve the climate issues with a lot of individualistic and consumeristic kind of approaches, but also the same with mental health or other aspects around schools, for example. There's a lot of focus on individual kids and different like problems in kids, either as individuals or like a bigger group, but there's almost no discussion of what is wrong with education, what is wrong with schools, and how the kind of construct of being in school for 13, 14 years and then maybe studying at the university for 5 years, that's 19 years of your life. And it can be creative, fun, open, but it can also be something that does not really fit certain people. So is there any take on that? That was not a question, but it was like a framing, because I see a kind of an opening for where your work also comes into that as well. Yeah. Do you want to come in now? Yeah.
Well, I think it weaves together. When I mention community as a future hope, support, strength, I was thinking about a germ of a society where it's not competition that breeds fear, but in terms of solidarity, mutual responsibility, compassion, love, and whatnot, that then it will be reflected in our way to relate to each other. And then something that Gandhi used to say, we are the message. That how do we transform ourselves in that process of transformation, bringing back to the question, the big question about a theory of change, that we are part of the change in ourselves, between ourselves, and so on.
That was a better question. Is also, yeah, go ahead, whoever.
Do you want to stop?
I could just say something very small there. So thinking of Rebellmammor specifically, I think the what we're offering, as I see it anyway, is a model of collaboration. So we collaborate, we care for one another. I think that comes across often in the feedback we have after we've been out together in public. A lot of people say that this has felt really nice. It feels like we care for one another as well as caring about these issues that we're standing for. And I think for those of us who have children as well, for our children to see that we're prepared to take our time, because time is precious, particularly in this kind of society where the individual is supposed to perform and so on. It's difficult sometimes to carve out those pockets of time. But I think for me, certainly, for my children to see that I'm doing this, and sometimes their names are on those signs. So it's a direct communication to them that there's care here. There's care for future generations, for other people, as well as for the issues. So collaboration and care, I think, is something that comes out very strongly in what we do, as I see it.
Yeah, just I'd like to add to that I think that these changes are microscopic, and in what we're doing with the manifestation and in the contact then you get with the general public, and they wonder why are you doing this and what's this is all about, that then there's the chance that little seed will start growing, and where we need to see it is in schools. It is, and it is a part of parenthood. It is a part of when you're actually expecting a child, because that is the biggest thing we can do, is to produce other human beings. And when you're pregnant, there's a really wonderful chance to get in contact with this being that you have made, and it's growing and it's going to come out. I think if you can inspire parents to think what is this child coming out to? What can we do? And it's a balance. It's always a balance. It mustn't go too far the other way. And we now know that there's more mental health, more anguish, more anxiety about things that are happening in the world. And that is, I'm sure, one of the reasons why adults are not deciding to have children. I have somebody who's very close to me who has said, no, I wouldn't bring a child into this world. And I feel that is so sad. So what are we going to do when the robots are doing everything and there's all these people and they don't know what to do? And then we're not making any. We're in a huge change, but you only see it microscopically. But I do think just being here and doing, what we're being given the opportunity to do, working together, that's the important. You go away from here and feel inspired by what other people have said and do, and I think that is hope. I think that gives you strength.
I mean, also long before I even got pregnant, I've been thinking about, because I've known for years that I wanted to have children. I've thought that, what will I answer the day that they ask me, like, Mom, Grandma, when you knew about the climate crisis, what did you do? And then I want to be able to list all the things that I did that I'm probably still doing then and tell them, this is what I've done. And it's also when you talk about climate anxiety with people and they are like, oh, it's so bad that children have climate anxiety, they shouldn't have that. And then they try to treat the anxiety and not the root of the anxiety, because the difference between climate anxiety and other anxiety is that climate anxiety is not that irrational. Like, it's not being feared of going inside an elevator. It's fear about something that's actually happening for real. And then the best way to maybe help my son, if he has climate anxiety one day, is to say, this is what I'm doing. I'm part of this resistance movement. You can come to our next process, and show him how to actually do something. And Rebellmammorna is great in a way that I've found that as a young mother, other climate organizations are either young students who have no kids, or it's people who are middle-aged and over and whose kids have grown up and moved out of the house. And I think it's so great to find a place where young mothers, grandmothers, where we can do things together, and it's accepted that you say, I have limits, I have a really messy time with my family right now, I can't do much in the next month. And then there's complete understanding of that. And I think that's really great that we always understand if someone says, I can't do this, I can just show up to the protest, I can't do anything before. And no one ever questions that. And I think that's going to make us last for longer than many other organizations.
I agree with everything said, and I wanted to go back to what you said about environmental breakdown and societal breakdown. And one of the reasons I went from just, changing my own habits and my own consumer behavior and stuff to activism, and one of the reasons I stay in activism is because I don't, wake up most mornings and actually believe that we're going to make this, because because the odds are so friggin' terrible, and I'm not an optimistic person. But we still have years ahead of us where we are going to be alive, and what is the world going to be like then? Like, even if we fail catastrophically, in the years until we die, what is society going to be, and how fast are things going to crumble, and how fast are things going to move? And activism for me is also then a part of, even if it can't solve the climate disaster, to show what kind of society do we have until we die, and I wanted to be a society of activism and caring for each other as long as possible, not a society of fascism and disintegration. And one of the most powerful things for me have been several times now in Rebellmammorna we have been contacted by, or we've had speakers from these youth organizations like Fridays for Future and I forget the name of the new one, doesn't matter, who say they are so sick and tired of adults who pat them on the back and say, it's so nice to see that you're doing this, you are bringing hope to us, and then they just keep walking. Because children should not have to be the hope of adults. That is such an abdication of responsibility. We are the ones who should bring hope to the children. That is our job. For as long as we can. Yeah.
Can I also?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think something that I've noticed being involved in sustainability work for most of my life is that many people have a vision of what we're trying to avoid, but no one really talks about where we want to go instead. And I think that's something that we're really missing, because when I took part in a CEMUS course like 12 years ago or something, we were supposed to write this story. Someone was going to write an introduction and then a middle part describing the location we were in and then a final part of the letter, and we didn't get to see what the others in our group had been writing. And then we read the letters, and the one that that I was part of writing was a really dystopic tale, and then my final very optimistic letter to myself in 2050, or like to someone in 2050 or 2060, about like this really nice community that I was living in. And I think that we lack stories and visions of where we want to go instead, because people need a direction to go towards and not something to leave. And I think that's something that we really need to work on and think about all the benefits that transition to sustainability would have, instead of just seeing it as a burden that we have to do, but to see all the great effects of biking instead of driving by car. You would get better cardiovascular health, you may not get asthma. And I think that we need to start envisioning more and paint a picture. This is where we could actually go instead. Because I don't know if I can keep doing this if I don't feel hope that we're going to make it. Of course, I doubt it every single day and every other second, but we always have to go back to thinking it might not actually be too late, because I don't have the right to give up on my son's future. I don't want him to question if he should dare to have children one day, if he decides that he wants me to be a grandmother. I can do that. No, but it's ridiculous that I also think I've heard since I was a very much younger climate activist, like, yeah, it's so good, you will get the real picture eventually. It's so cute that you're involved, but it will stop once you have kids and you will settle down. But I'm not gonna do that, and I hope other people won't either.
Well, you never know how a session or a podcast is going to be. And for one, I am touched by the emotions that emerge in our conversation. I think women are more gifted or able to show emotions. Men, we have been conditioned to be machos, not to feel fear or not to cry, because we are not men if we cry and so on. So I want to acknowledge and thank for the emotions that came up here. I want to relate to what you said about these millimetric additions. That's, big rivers like the Amazon or the Nile, they come from smaller rivers, and they come from smaller rivers, and from smaller rivers. So every drop in the end counts. So that's something that has been coming up in our conversation. Now I feel emotional myself.
Welcome to the
can join us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll try to control my emotions, but I think it's a key input, and it's also interesting both with CEMUS and also I'm thinking back on my own kind of take on the issues, because for me it's been always trying to understand or see the worst that could happen. But that kind of end station for me was always like, okay, so that means if all of this really bad could happen, or it could play out very differently, that just means, it just for me translated into there's so much work to be done. So every hour, every minute, everything we can possibly do. I was a bit younger then, but a bit more energetic. So that was my kind of translation. But over time, I've realized that whether in education or in other communication settings, that kind of end station of possible darkness does not translate into, for others, there's a need to work on this. It just translated that either you just avoid it and just skip out of it, or you just become very passive of it. So I think that's also important. It's like, and how it is very different for different people in that as well. Yeah. Do you want to come in or?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not just a commercial, but in CEMUS we came out with, we launched a book that makes a bridge with university research. The book.
Yeah, the book is not in the sofa anymore.
Okay. It's a book about transformative research on higher education. Could include school education as well. Basically, to make a bridge between collaborative research, not competitive research. So we're not seeking a Nobel Prize. Yes. So that book is now paperback. It was published in the UK, or maybe cheaper in India, and then sold through the United Kingdom. So there is different ways to converge from the university, from schools, from Rebellmammorna, Rebel Mothers, and then again a vision. At the large level, the World Social Forum tried to gather so-called civil society with the motto, another world is possible, because the world we live in is a nightmare, it's impossible. So at least to conceive that another world is possible is already a step forward.
Yeah. We are reaching the end. Does anyone have anything to add to all of this? Yeah, we've been going in a different direction, so please.
Right. I think, again, if we could just bring up this business of balance. Yes, we have to be aware of the realities. We have to be honest with what's going on. But I think that is a strong thing if we can try to keep our emotions so that they don't make it more difficult for the children. And I'm not criticizing people who feel this so strongly, that it is their lives and they're giving their lives to trying to do everything they can. But I really do think one of the most important things is just trying to get it into a smaller contexture, like it's what you do with your neighbor. If you could just open the door and say, come on in and have a cup of coffee, or we're going outdoors and we're going to have coffee and some saft, or come on down, just talk with people. And it might feel not, it's not scientific, it isn't anything that you're doing, but I think if you can just start doing things in a smaller way, it's like the trickle of water that becomes the Amazon. We can all do something, and I think that's very good for the children to see that we are hopeful. I think we are hopeful. I mean, we cannot imagine what is going to be there in 20 years that is going to be of an advantage in this battle that we're facing. I mean, I didn't know anything about, I can't think of a single subject now 20 years ago, and what is happening today, which I could never have conceived. Children today, they are so well able to get information. They want to know, they're full of curiosity, and I'm sure they are going to do things. So I'm not sort of saying, it's lovely that you're doing this, we're very grateful, but it is also saying that you have a purpose. People need to be seen, they need to be confirmed, and they need to be encouraged.
on the nature of sort of hope and the need for hope. When I first sort of dipped my toe into the pool of activism, there was a discussion about sort of the danger of hope, and if hope was like something useful or something that we were sort of fighting against. And I think there is a hope, a less sort of false hope, or something that's almost isn't hope, that is someone else is going to solve this, or someone else's activism means I don't have to do anything. But there's also, and some people work the way you said you did, like they can take the negative sort of vision of the future and have it within themselves to say, well, I'm going to fight that. But some people would see the same thing and say, well, I'm just going to give up then. So we need different amounts of hope, I think. But the hope should be in what can something that I do can matter. And another world is possible. And I just wanted to say, my mother is also part of Rebellmammorna, and she has a blanket that she brings with her to demonstrations and manifestations. That is my old baby blanket that says another world is possible.
Oh, what a nice way to end.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, please.
I'm sorry for talking so much.
No, that's part of the
but
podcast.
I when I wrote my master thesis in sustainable development, we made a difference between different kinds of hope, and I know that one of them we called constructive hope, and that's the one where you actually think about things that you can do. You see social movements, while other kinds of hope could be like, yeah, we'll just get electric cars and then the thing will be solved, or we must just get more nuclear power and simplify the entire climate issue to just that. But I also think that I'm a bit sick and tired of people shaming me for being a mother when I try to fight climate change, and they're like, yeah, but you have kids, so you're a culprit because you shouldn't have kids because kids are bad for the climate. But one of the reasons I decided to have kids was that I thought, what will the next generation be like if only people who don't care about the world are the ones who have children? What will that be like if they're raised by people who couldn't care less if they were going to hell in a handbasket? That's not going to be good, and it's not for sure that my son has to emit 10 tons of carbon dioxide a year just because he lives in Sweden, because he adopts the same lifestyle that we have. It's not going to be that bad. And it's a bit annoying that people state that I shouldn't be allowed to fight for my own child's future, because what other movement would you make that demand? Oh, you fight for disability rights. Do you have kids? Like, there's no one else making that demand of anyone else. But I guess it's just a way trying to silence me and let people go back to their status quo and do nothing.
We need to wrap up. Is it something short? Yeah.
It's about time. It's about time in the sense that we need to reclaim the streets. We need to reclaim time. It has become a scarce resource. We need to reclaim it. We need to reclaim the planet for us and future generations. So it's about reclaiming life, decency, solidarity, compassion, humanity.
All right. Finally, one of you, how can you connect with you online or somewhere else? Is there a... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a number of different Facebook groups depending on where you live. There's one for Rebellmammorna Uppsala, Rebellmammorna Uppsala, I don't remember. And Rebellmammor Sverige is the big one, but there's also a webpage, I think, and we're on Instagram. You can find us in lots of different places, I think.
Yes, I think the webpage is mothersrebellion.org, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, if you're not a Swedish speaker, you have a challenge in maybe spelling Rebellmammorna, but maybe we can put that in the description of this as well, so you can, yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Astrid, as well. This was fun. The soundscape here is a bit of a challenge, but it worked. It was fun to be in a sofa, and for me, at least, to be in a different setting. So thanks so much, and this is the last session we have recording for this spring, and then we'll back in September, early September, hopefully. Yeah, thank you.
Very much.